There's no getting around the fact that the Kia K5 is an exceptionally good-looking car, but there's also no getting around the fact that seriously, this might be the most attractive car on sale today with the ugliest wheels and tires that I've ever seen in my entire life. How are you going to design a mid-size sedan that's this attractive and then give it like Reeboks for shoes? I mean, the wheels look like they came straight off a golf cart or one of those like child's Fisher-Price My First Car things. They wouldn't look out of place on a Hot Wheels version of the Kia K5. They're seriously the worst thing I've seen in my entire life. Like, I can't even believe that sort of thing made it past the approval stage. Like, when I pull into a parking lot, I see like Mitsubishis with bigger wheels and tires than this. It's just one of the most egregious examples of ridiculous design I've ever seen.
One eternity later.
Like, how did this sort of thing even make it out of committee? Like, did Peter Schreier finish designing every part of the car except the wheels and tires, and he was like, well, that's job done. I'll leave that to the interns. Like, when he was leaving to go get coffee, like, one of the interns was like,
you ain't got no
wheels, and then they let someone's like nephew pencil them in real quick or something? Huh? We've been out here for 7 hours? Oh. Sorry, I guess better get on with it. What's going on, everyone? Jax here, and today we have the 2021 Kia K5. Yes, despite the wheels, the K5 is a good-looking car. In fact, it's a great-looking car. And that's important because this is a highly competitive market segment, as well as a rapidly shrinking class of vehicles. As more and more people move to SUVs to fill their needs, sort of sales stalwarts like the Honda Accord and the Toyota Camry are all competing for fewer and fewer customers. But I would argue that those customers are probably a lot like me. The people that desire a sedan probably appreciate the way a car drives and handles, at least a little bit. Otherwise, they'd also be getting an SUV. So what cars like the K5 are actually chasing are enthusiast dads. And moms too, don't worry. Enter the K5, which is the corporate twin of the Hyundai Sonata. But where Hyundai's design language is kind of like the movie The Ring, it's sort of disturbing and offensive, and you wouldn't be surprised if after you saw it, someone called you on the phone and then was like, 7 days, and then you died. 7 days. Kia's design language, on the other hand, is kind of like the cast of Ocean's 11. Even the odd ones are somehow sort of dignified in a stately kind of way. The K5 fits in perfectly here, advancing the design language that Kia has established and sort of taking it to the next level in kind of a sporty and interesting way. I really like the way the K5 looks, to be honest, and all wheel and tire jokes aside, I think it's one of the best looking cars in the class, if not competing to be the best looking car in its class. It's much better looking than the trying too hard Toyota Camry, the aging Mazda 6, and the about as interesting as a pair of pants Nissan Altima. And if a more enthusiastic driver is shopping for a sedan, then they want a powertrain that's going to provide some level of engagement and reward, even in base trim. And this is where the K5 scores kind of another victory. The base engine is a 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, making 180 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque, all running through a traditional 8-speed automatic transmission. While that doesn't sound super impressive,
Most impressive.
thanks to the turbocharged nature of the engine, torque comes on down low and helps the K5 to feel a lot peppier than it actually is. Above that, it kind of runs out of juice, as evidenced by its 0 to 60 time of around 8 seconds. But thanks to that torque and some clever transmission tuning, the K5 never really feels slow in day-to-day driving. In fact, I would argue that the K5 drives as good or better than most other cars in its class. All right, behind the wheel of the extremely attractive Kia K5, and the first thing that jumps out at me, and it jumped out at me the minute I got behind the wheel, was that this car feels more powerful than it actually is. That 195 pound-feet of torque actually feels really good at normal day-to-day driving speeds. I can't really stress that enough, that at normal speeds, this car feels genuinely peppy, genuinely quick. You don't feel like you settled taking the base engine, and I think that's really important. That's gonna be a big deal to a lot of buyers for this car. You know, a lot of people buy the base engine, and this base engine feels really, really good. Definitely feels like it has enough power. Now, of course, at higher speeds, it runs out of steam, but really anything below about 50, 60 miles an hour, it feels adequate. It's nice to have a proper automatic too. This is a 8-speed automatic, and it's nice. It feels like it's making the most of the engine's sort of turbocharged torque. You don't have the sort of groaning and droning of a poorly tuned CVT. Honda, well-tuned CVT. Nissan, not so much. But it's nice to have an actual automatic transmission to go through the gear ratios. And the shifts in that automatic are pretty good. The shifts themselves are incredibly smooth. They can be a little unsure at lower speeds. Sometimes it feels like it's overly aggressive and really wants the engine to play, like it feels like you want to get after it. And then other times it tries to sort of coast on that torque and doesn't downshift, it just lets it build up as the turbo spools. It's not going to bother most people, but as an enthusiast dad, I do find it slightly irritating from time to time. Now, let's talk about what is by far, in my opinion, this car's greatest strength, and that is the ride quality. For a sort of standard suspension setup, this car is phenomenal. I mean, this is a basic trim level. It's not the lowest trim level, but let's say it's the second lowest trim level. And it does not feel it. It feels composed and confident. So I just turned on the handling road, and I was genuinely shocked at how composed this car was on the handling road. Like I was saying, this is a lower spec K5, and over this first sort of rough patch, the body control is just unbelievable for this kind of class of car at this price. I mean, that's it. That was it. That was the up and down motion that sends some SUVs and Ford Rangers into a frenzy. Going around the first corner, roll is very well controlled. I mean, I know some of this is coming from those hideous fat sidewall tires, and they are utterly hideous. I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but they are just atrociously ugly. So are the wheels. So everything about them. But the ride quality in this car is fantastic. This car had every right to be soft and pogo-y or overly firm, trying too hard, and it's not. Like, here's the big bump. That's it. That's it. I am blown away. I would say that this car rides a little on the softer side, but that's okay. Not every car in this class has to be the Honda Accord. Does the Honda Accord ride better as an enthusiast perspective? Yes, the Honda Accord is the superior handling car. Probably the best car in the class, bar none. Maybe aside from the Mazda 6, but the Mazda 6 has some old bones.
Has a 5-year plan.
What is it? Don't die?
But what Kia has done here with this K5, I mean, to make a car that's this good looking, that drives this competently, you can't understate it. It's a fantastic achievement. Well well done, Kia. Now, are there some gripes? Yes. The steering is fairly accurate, but I think it's kind of overly light at low speeds. If you put it in sport mode, which is really just the typical firm it up and make it artificially heavy, it's not very remarkable, I guess, is what I'm saying. I do think the throttle and brake pedal calibration just feels a little off, just a little off. The throttle tips in a little overly aggressively, trying to kind of, I think, fake the perception of power there, which seems silly because there actually is a decent amount of power there. And then the brake pedal's not especially linear. The feel of the pedal isn't great. That's where your sort of Honda Accord is gonna separate itself a little bit, is in those little fine details. But I mean, this car is $25,500. I mean, for that price, with what you get on it and the way it looks and the way it drives, it definitely is making a case for itself. And I mean, sport mode, like I said, I just find it to be kind of stupid. Like, it just makes the transmission hold gears, and it's not as smart as when you do it in a Mazda, where it kind of reads your mood and goes, you want to play right now, and then you back off and it goes, all right, I'll go ahead and shift up and forget about it. This one is like, no, you still want to play, right? You still want to play, we're still playing, right? We're gonna play, are we gonna play, are we gonna play? Squirrel. It needs kind of a hybrid mode there, where it's like ready for you when you want to play, but then it knows, oh, okay, you haven't done anything crazy in a while. I'll just go ahead and upshift and be normal. And while the engine does have power, it does kind of lack character. It sounds very okay. It doesn't have like kind of any cool characteristics or anything, and that's fine, because most cars in this class don't. See, let's get a little of that engine sound. It's all right, not bad. But here's the thing. Overall, if you look at the competition, I mean, the Honda Accord is, to me, bar none at the top of the class. Nothing drives like the Honda Accord. If you're looking at a midsize sedan, the Honda Accord is the best driving, best handling midsize sedan. It's also one of the fastest. It's a fantastic car. I'm a Honda fanboy. I love the Accord, so there, get it out of the way. Would I take this over a lower spec Camry? Yeah, probably. It drives better than the Camry. Mazda 6, I do love Mazda. You know, guys, you know how I feel about Mazda. Come on, you know how I feel about Mazda. But the 6 is ancient. So I'd probably take this over a 6. I'd definitely take it over an Altima. I'd take it over the Sonata because it's hideous. Sorry, my brother-in-law had Sonatas. Sorry, James. I mean, the Fusion is dead. The Malibu is pointless. Like, honestly, the K5 might be number 2. That's not a bad place to be. If there's one area where the K5 sort of value proposition becomes more noticeable, it's in the interior. On this LXS trim, the amount of hard plastic on the interior is substantial. I think the overall design of the interior is really nice. It looks modern, it looks upscale, and the sort of subtle texturing on the knobs and the dials and the sort of dash, it looks really nice. But aside from some elbow padding, are you listening, Hyundai? Most of the surfaces that you come in contact with are rock hard plastic. I found the seats to be just okay. They have decent lateral support, but my back got a little achy over time. Then again, I'm oddly shaped, so take that with a grain of salt. I'm 6'6" and I've got scoliosis, so you might be okay. I'm just complaining because, like, you know, it felt weird to me. Fit and finish are apparently good. However, when we had a weird weather snap of like extreme cold followed by unseasonable warmth, there was a sort of squeak that developed at the bottom of the center stack where the wireless charger would be in higher trim levels. And it was very apparent and very annoying. And the only thing I can attribute it to is maybe the wild temperature swings. I know I always say that test cars lead hard lives, but I felt like I needed to share it because there wasn't really any other explanation. But I don't necessarily think that this is a deal breaker. Let me explain. In this LXS trim, the K5, as you see it here, costs about $25,500. And I think that's a great value considering it comes with Apple CarPlay, a bunch of standard safety features like blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, as well as nice options like Kia's remote start. It's a well-equipped sedan with as much or more interior space than any other car in the class. For comparison, the Nissan Sentra I tested a few months ago cost exactly the same price. And while it did come with quite a few more options, it wasn't nearly as spacious or as rewarding to drive. So that would kind of be the main decision point you need to make. Do you need the space, or would you rather have the options? I think for many potential buyers, that's what it's going to boil down to. So should you buy a Kia K5, especially at this price point in a more value-oriented trim? Well, that depends on a few things. If space isn't your top priority and you want to get the most bang for your buck, you might consider the Nissan Sentra instead. It doesn't drive as good as the K5, but it looks just as good as the K5, and it definitely would spoil you just a little bit more for your 25 grand. If you need the space and you don't mind the sort of harder interior and the lack of options, I would take the K5 over just about anything else in the class. Provided I set aside some money for better wheels and tires, of course. I'm only half kidding. Honestly, they spoil the look of this admittedly handsome car so much that I'd have a hard time looking at it every time I walked out to it when it was in the parking lot. Maybe you feel differently because you lack a sense of taste or style or personal dignity. I don't know, but it would be tough for me. But if I were buying into the mid-size sedan class in general, and I had some wiggle room on price, I'd probably still go with the Honda Accord. The Accord Sport, sort of comparably equipped, costs about $3,000 more, but it will easily retain $3,000 of its value over the first few years of ownership, which is an important thing to consider if you're planning on buying a car new. It also comes with a few more options, as well as 19-inch wheels and tires, so that's kinda worth the $3 grand right there. But don't let my obvious Honda bias get in the way of the fact that the Kia K5 is an excellent midsize sedan. And it vaults Kia into the upper echelons of this class, honestly, right behind the Honda Accord, which I think is the best car in this class. And while it might not be as dominant compared to its peers as the Kia Telluride is in its respective class, it's darn close. I personally love what Kia is doing right now, and I'm even more excited to see where they go from here. Guys, thanks so much for watching on what is apparently an insanely windy day. It's gorgeous out here. It's like 60 degrees in February here in Atlanta, and I came out to film on my last day with the car, and it's like hurricane force winds. So I hope it wasn't too distracting over the course of this review. I appreciate it if you've made this far. If you made it this far, actually comment down below like ultra windy, or your hair looks dumb. It looks dumb anyway because of the color, or your hoodie is flopping around or something like that, because it is extremely irritating to film today. It's so windy that the lights in the parking lot are shaking back and forth and making even more noise. So, you know, sometimes you gotta overcome the elements to film a car review. Thanks for being here. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this review informative. If you did, please consider giving it a like. And if you wanna join this community, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell so you'll be notified of any future videos. Until next time, ride safe, drive safe. I hope it's a little less windy where you are, and I'll catch you in the next review. All right, peace. Of course, it'd be a beautiful day with horrific wind. Like, it's not just windy, like it's like incredibly windy. And I have only this amount of time to film. During on the Dobbs, it was a beautiful day until I came outside to film. Then hurricane force winds. Yep, even more. Yep, gusts of, okay, yeah. Never wanted to pollute on purpose so much in my life, planet Earth.
Oh, lady literally blocking the entire road in her car as she pulls in to pick her kids up from school. Yeah, it's fine. No one else has anywhere to be. But you do you, lady. Block the whole road. Bet you don't wear a mask either. Karen. Just want to get to the handling road so that I can talk to the people. That's you. Just Kia, the wheels and tires. Bro, come on. Come on. You know what else had 16-inch wheels and tires? My 1996 Firebird I had when I was in high school. That had 16-inch wheels and tires. It's 2021. I'm sorry. I can't get over it. I love the way this car looks. I think it looks fantastic. I love the look of this car. I'm putting this at the end of the video because I already talked about it in the interior thing, but like that squeak didn't exist. It literally didn't exist for the first half of my week with the car. And then we had some weird temperature swings, and now there's this weird squeak coming from the bottom of the center stack where the wireless charger would be, like, and it's, oh my God, it's irritating. It's like a mouse caught in a trap that someone glued to the underside of the dash. Like, why is that happening? It's awful. It's like constant now. I don't know if the lav mic is picking it up, but it's incredibly irritating. It's not a good look, Kia.